Get up and get ready for the South Carolina High School Blitz.
This is about pride. Not keeping it, but finding it.
Join Scvarsity Jim Baxter and guests with the best in South Carolina high school sports and recruiting news.
This is not just some game. You realize that.
Here's Jim Baxter. Go all the way.
Welcome in, everybody, to Scvarsity.com's first edition of the Blitz for the 2018 preseason football season. Jim Baxter, your host, owner, operator, founder of Scvarsity.com. And we're going to start off with a little house cleaning stuff on the coaching situations. A lot of changes going on in the offseason. Most recently, Scott's Branch got their guy with Brian P. Smith. You may remember that Brian was at Blythewood last year and was kind of a controversial termination, resignation, if you will, at the end of the season last year in his first season with Blythewood. He is now at Scotts Branch, of course, back in that same area where he was at with C.E. Murray, where he took that program to a couple of state championships. Blythewood, in the meantime, hires Jason Seidel out of North Carolina. Mid-Carolina made a hire this past week with Chris Arnault, who comes from Chesterfield, which opens up the Chesterfield job. Union County, interesting things happening in Union County. First of all, Bradley Adams, went to Woodruff and took the Woodruff job, opening up Union County. Union County narrowed it down to 3 guys. They had Jason McManus, offensive coordinator from South Point, Brian Robinson, who was on staff at Union County and was on staff for a long time at Jonesville before the consolidation of the schools, and then Brian Thompson, who was at River Bluff. Of course, Brian Thompson was a defensive coordinator at Brooklyn Casey High School, and then spent some time at Dutch Fork under Tom Knotts, and was most recently defensive coordinator at River Bluff High School. And anyway, they offer the job to McManus. It's just waiting a board approval as of Monday night. Tuesday morning, he calls Union County and withdraws his name and backs out of the job, leaving them with the vacancy still. And apparently, my sources tell me that number 2 guy was Brian Thompson. And so, as of right now, our thinking here at scvarsity.com is that Brian Thompson is going to be the next Union County head football coach, of course, pending board approval. Interesting stuff. My own speculation. This is not based on anything that I have evidence of, but my thoughts are that possibly South Point, with Straight Heron nearing retirement, countered the offer from Union County by telling Coach McManus that he would be the next head coach at South Point when Coach Heron steps down, and possibly kept him in that manner. Summerville High School makes a hire at offensive coordinator position, Hunter Spivey, longtime South Carolina guy. He was a quarterback at Conway High School and Newberry College, and then he coached at Newberry College, Coastal Carolina, spent some time at Gray Military Academy, back to Newberry College, and then he took a offensive coordinator position at Valdosta High School down in Georgia. But anyway, he is coming back to South Carolina as offensive coordinator for Summerville High School, and that is all the coaching stuff we have right now. So this week, we started doing the breakdown for the state of South Carolina, looking at each classification. Of course, we've got the 5-class system right now, and that should stand in this realignment that we have for 2018 through 2020 should stand, barring any kind of injunctions that could possibly be filed when spring sports season is over. But went over the Class 5A. Now, listen, this is all speculation without having done any kind of spring evaluation, because none of these schools have actually been on the football field yet. But based off of what we know that each school's got coming back and how we think they'll fare in this new realignment. So we'll just go over those real quick. Not going to spend a lot of time on it tonight, but Region 1 predictions. In this order: T.L. Hanna, Greenwood, Westside, Lawrence, Easley, J.L. Mann, Woodmont, and Wade Hampton bringing up the rear. I think this region is definitely heavy at the top. T.L. Hanna returns a lot of key talent, including at the quarterback position, where I think they've probably got the best quarterback in that region. I think they do have the best quarterback in that region with Alex Meredith. But I do believe that this is a year that they're going to have to do it. I don't think that the well is very deep after this year in terms of talent. I think that it's going to drop off a little bit. Looking at their junior varsity and middle school guys over the last couple of years, I believe this is a class that if they're going to do something deep in the playoffs, it's got to be this year. If not, they got a couple of dry years coming up. I think Greenwood is a team that's going to be good. I think that they'll need to get better on the offensive side of the football and not shoot themselves, but they're going to be really strong on the defensive side of the football. In fact, they've got two rising junior defensive ends that may be two of the best that school has seen, and that's saying something coming from Greenwood. Westside has all the tools they need to win this region, except for the quarterback position. They do not have a signal caller, and they don't have anything that resembles a signal caller. And I think Coach Scott Early is kind of aware of that they're going to have to make some magic happen. But they do have a lot of team speed, and this is a team that is really strong in the 2020 class. So look for them to be good for a couple of years. And maybe even beyond, because their 2020 sophomore class, rising junior class, and their 8th grade class, which is a rising freshman class, are probably their two strongest classes. Beyond those three teams, I don't think that we've got anybody that's going to challenge for the top spot. I think Lawrence is going to be finishing in the middle, possibly battling Easley. Easley's got to transfer quarterback in, Dallas Odom, who came from Daniel High School, and I think that he'll make Easley better on the offensive side of the football. But I believe Easley and Lawrence are two schools that are going to finish in the middle of that region. J.L. Mann will, come probably finish in that 6th spot. Woodmont, Wade Hampton at the bottom. I think clearly Wade Hampton is probably going to be the team that brings up the rear. And I don't know that they'll win a region game this year. Go to Region 2 is going to be an interesting region, and I'm going to be totally honest with you. This is a tough region to call. The top 4 or 5 teams you could put in any order and not really have anyone argue with you. The order that I've got them in right now, just based on the skill players that they've got coming back and what they've got coming back in the trenches on both sides of the football, I like Gaffney. I like Burns. I think Burns is going to be better in their second season under Reggie Shaw. Dorman has some skill players coming back that I think is going to make them good. This is a team, those top 3 teams, could win this thing. Bowling Springs is another team that is loaded with skills players, and I believe that they're going to be solid and competitive in that region. Spartanburg, they've got a lot of corner turning to do before they get back in the mix of being in the top 2 or 3 in this region. Hillcrest is kind of a wild card here. Hillcrest comes over from a different region. We know that Greg Porter can win at a high level. He's done it. He's taken them to the state championship. They do have a good quarterback. They've got some good skill players at the wide receiver position, and I think that they're a team that could be a shocker in this region and end up finishing fairly high. I don't think they'll win this region, but I do think they could easily finish in that top 3. Malden, I think Malden is going to struggle a little bit in this region. I don't see them finishing higher than a six spot in this region, and to do that, they're going to have to beat Spartanburg or Hillcrest to get that 6th spot. But they're going to be good. I do think Malden has got one of the best young players in the state of South Carolina, in their 2020 cornerback, Andrew Phillips. I like that kid. He reminds me a lot of. He doesn't remind me of Stephon Gilmore, but he's probably the best cornerback I've seen in the state since Stephon Gilmore was at South Point. Riverside, the only thing that I am sure about in this region is that Riverside is going to finish dead last in this region. I don't know any other way to say it. They're just not a very good football program right now. Region 3 predictions. Kind of a small region, five schools. I think it's going to be Northwestern, Rock Hill, Nation Ford, Fort Mill, and Clover in that order. Northwestern, returns some solid talent at the wide receiver position, and their quarterback, Dustin Noller, comes back. He's a 2020 quarterback with a lot of potential, 3,000-yard passer last year. Going to be very good for them, explosive on the offensive side of the football. I think Nation Ford and Rock Hill are going to battle for that second spot. So I believe Bearcats, Nation Ford, they're going to be 2 and 3 in this region. In one order or the other. Fort Mill finishing in the 4th spot. Coach Lucy has been battling attrition over the last couple of years, and I think that it's gonna show this year when they take the field. And Clover, they're at number 5, but they're a team that it's almost their time, to have a resurgence and try to get back to some winning ways. I don't know if it's going to happen this year, but I've got them picked in the 5th spot right now, but that could obviously change. This is again a pre-spring evaluation speculation piece, if you will. Region 4 predictions. This is one of the Midlands regions. It's a fairly strong region. I think Sumter and Spring Valley are going to be 1 and 2 in that region. Spring Valley has the skills players to possibly challenge for that top spot, but they're missing a quarterback. They graduated their quarterback from last year, who was just a phenomenal execution piece in that flexbone offense for Coach Robin Bacon. But so replacing him is going to be tough. But I think they're 1 and 2. I think Irmo is a team that has the talent to challenge. They should be challenging every year, but I think that they're going to finish in the 3 spot. Blythewood at number 4. They're a school that has always had the talent to win. They're scary getting off the bus and warming up, but they're under a new coach, their 3rd coach in 3 years, and I just don't know how that's going to fare on the football field. They've got some issues over there that mostly comes from the stands, and it does impact the football team. Lugoff Elgin, kind of a wild card in this region. They had some success last year as they continue to rebuild that program under Scott Campbell, and I believe that they're going to be better this year than they were last year, but they are moving up to 5A, and I think that is going to impact them just a little bit. The Region 5, the other Midlands region, has got Dutch Fork sitting at the top. I think Dutch Fork is the best team in 5A, and we'll go over the 5A spring rankings in just a few minutes. But Dutch Fork and Lexington 1 and 2 in that region. I think Lexington is kind of a team that is dangerous, more dangerous and better than people give them credit for being. They're going to have a new quarterback this year. I think it's going to be a better situation for them at quarterback with a more athletic guy, Colin Signals. They're short a couple of players. I think this is a team that is a couple of players shy of challenging Dutch Fork for this region. I just don't think they're going to get those guys. But they do more with what they have than any other school, which is a tribute to their coaching staff there. But I like them at number 2. I think White Knoll is at number 3, but they've had some attrition, not only on their roster, but in the coaching staff as well. And Coach Dean Howell is scrambling to replace some of those guys. Of course, he loses his offensive coordinator and then loses another guy that's vital to the staff that he's going to have to replace both those guys, and I think that's going to be a challenge for him. River Bluff at number 4. River Bluff is got a good athlete that played quarterback for them last year. I think that they're going to be playing a younger quarterback this year so they can utilize their athletes where they need to utilize them to be a better football team. River Bluff suffered what I would call a walkout of coaches at the end of the season, and they're having to replace not the entire staff, but almost the entire staff. And I think they've got it done, but I think that is going to impact this football team, and I think that they're going to finish 4th in this region if they can beat Chapin. Chapin moves up from 4A to 5A. That's going to be a challenge for them, but this is a team that's very well coached with Justin Gentry and his staff, and they've got a couple of really good offensive linemen in the trenches that will help them out against these larger teams. But I think on a week in and week out basis, I'm not sure that Chapin will have the depth to play 4 quarters with these teams week in and week out. Region 6 predictions, I've got Conway, Carolina Forest, West Florence, South Florence, and Scvarsity. Conway returns a lot of talent, but they lost some key skill players, and that's going to impact this region. Fortunately, they don't have anyone overpowering in this region to compete with since the realignment. Carolina Forest is a team that I think is going to be improved. They had a successful first-round playoff appearance last year. They run a good ground game. I think they need to open their offense up a little bit more to compete deep in the playoffs or to get further in the playoffs than they did last year. But what they're doing is working, and you can see the improvement in that football team. West Florence, I've got it at the number 3 spot. Possibly could have put them higher, but they lose their coach in kind of a controversial parting of ways down there. There was a lot that happened at West Florence High School in the coaching ranks from softball, basketball, and football, including obviously Trey Woodbury as athletics director. So they replace him, and it's going to be interesting to see what happens at West Florence, how that impacts that football team. South Florence, bring up the tail end of the region last year. I think they're going to finish in a 4th spot this year with Scvarsity finishing in the last spot. I put Scvarsity at the last spot for 2 reasons. One, they lose their quarterback that was such a big part of their high-scoring offense last year, losing to graduation. And then the other thing is that this is a team that gave up over 400 points on defense last year. They had no defense last year. You just can't give up those kind of points and win week in and week out. And I think that they're going to finish at the bottom of that region. Region 7, 2 new guys moving up from 4A, Berkeley and Cane Bay. And I've got them at 1 and 2 in this region, followed by Wando, Goose Creek, Stratford, and James Island. Cane Bay and Berkeley, they come up to play with the big boys, but I think that they're going to be challenging for the top spots. I like Berkeley. I think Berkeley probably returns more talent than anyone else in this region to their football team, and I think that they're going to win this region. I believe I've got Cane Bay at number 2 out of respect for what they've done over the last couple of years, but let's face it, they lost some key talent to graduation. So attrition is going to hurt them. I'm not sure if they can finish in that number 2 spot where I've got them, but because of the rest of this region and the way they played, I've got them in the number 2 spot. Wando is a team that I think could finish in the 2nd spot. They're going to be with a new quarterback at the helm this year. It's going to be interesting to see how they play. Goose Creek and Stratford, I've got at 4 and 5, and honestly, that you could flip them around and it doesn't matter. They both had some very big issues last year that they've got to deal with. I think that Goose Creek had a lethargic offense, barely scoring any points, and Stratford had a Swiss cheese defense, and they just gave up points. Like water running through a strainer. I think that both of those schools need to correct those things, or they're going to finish right here in this 4th and 5th spot. James Island at number 6. I've got them at number 6 because there is no number 7. Until someone in that school cares about football other than the head coach, I think they're going to continue to struggle, and they're going to continue to finish dead last in their regions. Region 8 is going to be an interesting region. Fort Dorchester and Somerville, Ashley Ridge, West Ashley, and Stall in that order. I like Fort Dorchester. I know they lost to Carrion Joyner, and he was a huge loss, but they've got a lot of talent coming back. They do have a replacement that I like on film. He did some really neat things on the JV team last year, and when he was doing mop-up duty on the varsity level with the few snaps he got. But I think they're going to be just fine. I think Somerville is kind of a wild card with Hunter Spivey coming in as offensive coordinator. He is a running gun type of guy, so they're going to open up that offense a little bit, and it's going to be interesting to see how they respond to that. Somerville could possibly be an improved football team this year. Ashley Ridge played very young last year, so they've got some experience. I've got them at number 3, but listen, they could finish number 2 in this region. I don't think that they're going to challenge Fort Dorchester for that top spot. West Ashley at number 4, and Stall will bring up the rear of this region. And that is the way that I see the 5A class as we head into spring practice. All right, guys, it's been fun. That's all I got for today. We'll come back later in the week, and we're going to talk about the Class 4A and some recruiting notes from around the state of South Carolina. Thank you for joining me on the South Carolina Blitz. I'm Jim Baxter. I'm out.